And the second thing, well-architected platforms has great tools. And so ideally, platforms don't want to do any work themselves. And when I told that to Ross, he got a big smile on his face. But they create tools for other people to do great work. How many here are on Facebook? How many feel they have a pretty awesome Facebook page? You know, and what they've done, and most of you, probably none of you know how to code or to build the technology that produced that page, but they made it so simple for you to just type something in and hit the post button. And if you make a mistake, they've even got a little arrow you can click on and delete the whole thing or amend it, etc. You can post a picture, you can post a video, you can create a link to another site, you can form a group. You can make comments, you can hit the like button, and then now there's those variety of like buttons. And all they've done is they've figured out what is it that you want to do, and how can I create a tool that can make you do that more effectively. I went to a seminar 2 years ago out in California, out in Stanford, by a guy named Nir Eyal, who wrote a book called Hooked, but it's on behavior. And one of the sessions we heard from was the woman that led the team at Facebook on where to place the like button. And the like button is, they used to have the poke button. The poke button was, hey, thinking about you. The like button, maybe we can talk about it some other time, just changed everything though, because one of the chemicals that's produced in our body, serotonin, comes from the feeling of being admired and admiring others. When you express appreciation, thanksgiving, giving, and forgiving all produce serotonin. And so, but when you say, I like that picture you put up, of the luncheon, of that meal that we had. I like where you are. I like who you're with. I like what you're doing. It releases just a little bit of serotonin in us that makes us feel good. And we hit the like button. So they created this amazing machine to keep people wanting to go back and forth and do this again. Wall Street Journal did an article on them. It was in the headlines, front page, but it said the button that made Facebook billions. It was just the like button. Well, the woman that led the seminar said we spent about 8 months and several $1 million on experimenting on where to place the like button and what color it should be, what the graphics should look like. And she said, if you think of a few $1 million, a lot of money to spend on the placement of a like button, consider the fact that it's made the company billions of dollars. And so it's kind of like, so what's happened though, they've created these tools. They work a lot on creating tools that they figure out what is it that you want to do, and then they create tools that make it easy for you to do that. Does that make sense? So again, when we think of tools, so the platform value is created as the users do the work. So unless users do the work, there's no Facebook. Unless users do all the work, there's no Twitter, right? And so when you kind of think of how you could do this, or even in your church, not that you're organizing and running everything, but how can you create a system that is so well designed that the users are doing the work and absolutely loving it, which takes us to the next principle. The magic of the platform is that they create tools for the users to simply produce great work, and that's what you guys do. So I'm hoping you guys will bring Dave Runyon out here. Dave wrote a book, and his friend Jay Pathak wrote a book called The Art of Neighboring. And what he says basically is that it comes out of research done by Robert Putnam, who wrote a book called Bowling Alone, but he said that just knowing your neighbors' names, if you have two neighborhoods side by side, same ethnographic, same income, same ethnic breakdown, etc., he says just the fact that knowing your neighbors' names reduces the risk factors by several percent, whether it be teen pregnancy, drug use, incarceration, high school dropout rate, et cetera, et cetera. Just the very fact of just knowing your neighbors' names. And so these guys got to thinking, what if you just put your house at the middle here, and rather than just getting somebody's name and then forgetting it, but he actually had a place to write it down. And that knowing, so Dave and his friend have done this all over, but he says, how many can name, they hand out a little sheet like this, but how many can name all 8 people? And of the thousands of people they've done this thing with, there's just been a handful of people that have been able to do that. But imagine my other friend Brian Mavis, who wrote another book on neighboring, he said just knowing your neighbor's name puts you on a moving sidewalk. In other words, all these good things start happening. Well, what these guys did, they not only wrote a book, but they created these refrigerator magnets. And so they're not quite that big, but they're pretty big. But you put it right in your refrigerator, and then you begin writing your neighbors' names down as you remember them. Okay, now I'm going to remember. It's Bill and Susie who live next door, and Kim right down. And a little bit just start filling in for information about them there. And what they did by creating this tool, 80,000 refrigerator magnets that are sitting on people's refrigerators, and I see them all over my friend's house wherever I go. By having that magnet up there, they've created a tool to help average people start living missionally, right? Just by having that passive tool up there, it's a reminder to live missionally today. I don't know those people across the street and one over. And I was out in front of the yard. I'm going to go introduce myself because I've got a purpose. So the tool, Dave doesn't do this work. The church is not doing this work, but they created a tool that made it people for easy to start living missionally. Does that make sense? Ross mentioned your day that you're going to have your, what do you call it, serve day? Share Fest, whatever it is. When your church or somebody like One Church, One Community creates this day, it's really a tool to help operationalize that passive energy that people have into active energy that creates a win. It makes average people very effective for that one day. So part of your job, what if you begin thinking of your job as even, how can I create tools? How can we as a city movement create tools to help whatever it is we want to have multiply, to have that happen more frequent, more often, and more and easier than ever before. So rather than spending the energies on just crafting another sermon that somebody's already given, taking some of that energy and thinking about how can I create tools for people to do good work. I think a great tool is just that little thing, just what I mentioned right before break. What if we had, you just taught people how to use a Twitter, and then for the application part of your sermons, just take 5 minutes and just process and boil it down to 140 characters. What you're going to do as a result of your day and send out to your network. That's a tool. All of a sudden, you've helped them go through the Ezra 7:10 cycle. You've turned consumers into producers. Now they become teachers. And how many of us have benefited when we've read something either on Facebook or on Twitter or a news feed or something like that somebody else has done that's inspired us to do something, And so again, it doesn't matter. Teaching is no longer, here's the person with a PhD teaching this person. Lessons can come from anywhere. It can come from people here, right? Because it's the value of the lesson that has the value. And with this democratization of communication, we can make that happen.